abandoned during the Israeli War of Independence in 1948. And it's a classic multi-layered tale that you have in many places in the Middle East, in which you have civilization after civilization after civilization, one on top of another, representing the various periods of cultures throughout this land. We've been excavating at this site for 15 years now, and what you see here is really only a very small part, lower city of the site. And up above there, this entire large hill that you see here on all sides is also part of this hill. And during the summer, we excavate here, not only in this part of the hill, but in other parts as well. And what you're doing today for 2.5 hours is only, I would say, even a hint of what really goes on here. During the summer, we have a team of, this year we had about 150, 160 people, archaeologists, students, volunteers from throughout the world, from just about every continent, and I would say besides, I don't think we had anybody ever from Antarctica or from yet on it, but just about everybody else has been here. And we work on many periods. Now, the site is most famous for a few periods and a few cultures. During the Canaanite culture, and during the cultures which represent the Iron Age, or in biblical terms, the First Temple period, this site is known as Gath. First as Canaanite Gath, and then Gath of the Philistines. And Gath of the Philistines in the biblical text is famous for where Goliath came from. So we're excavating Canaanite and Philistine levels. And in addition to that, on the very top of the hill, there's a Crusader fortress. And Richard the Lionhearted, the famous Crusader King of England, was also at this site. So we have a very, very long and impressive history of the site, and one of the nice things about this site is also it's a relatively out of the way place. And besides this disgusting electrical plant that you have over here, there isn't a lot of modern development over here, and also it hasn't been excavated extensively until we started the project. So we're very fortunate.
What percentage of the site is used?
If maybe 3% or something like that, and it won't be much more than that until we finish the project. I mean, we can continue for years, but we work about a month a year, and given the pace that you have to conduct excavations, if you want to work on modern standards and be able to find and understand what you're finding, you really have to work very slowly. I mean, for example, this excavation area that you see over here, where we really only excavated one level, and I'll talk about this level in a second, this is the 4th or 5th year, right?
Yep.
This is only a small portion of a lower city, which goes from, let's say, from that big tree over there till about 300 meters that way. So by definition, archaeological excavation, modern archaeological excavation, is a sample. You're only taking a very small sample of the site, both because even if we worked 365 days a year, and we had unlimited funding and unlimited manpower, we'd find so many materials that we wouldn't be able to publish them. And we have to work at a pace that we can understand the finds, and B, also analyze them and publish them in a manner which will be able to pass on the information both to the scientific community and to the public. And excavating without publishing is as if just destroying things. So we really only excavating a small portion. Now, as I said, we have here many cultures. We've been focusing a lot on the Philistine culture. Now, the Philistines are a very interesting group. The Philistines are people who, around 1200 BCE, and this is the time when the end of one period called the Late Bronze Age and the beginning of a period called the Iron Age, a new group appears in this region called the Philistines. This is just at the same time where another new group appears as well, the Israelites. And the Philistines are well known from the biblical text. They always are fighting the Israelites. And the Philistines, most of them, came from outside of this region, and they came probably more or less from the region of modern-day Greece. And when they come to this region, they settled in the southern coastal plain of modern-day Israel. And sites such as Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza, Gath, and Ekron are the five main sites of the Philistines. Now, when they settle down, they have a culture which is very different from the local culture. For example, they eat different foods, and one of the interesting things is the Philistines eat pig meat. The Israelites and the Canaanites don't eat pig meat. The Philistines cook differently. The Philistines build their houses differently, etc., etc. And we can see this very, very clearly in the archaeological remains. Now, they continue living in this region for several hundred years, and slowly they're more and more influenced by the surrounding groups, and they became more and more Levantinized, and slowly their culture looks more and more like the local cultures. And at this particular site, we have a very, very interesting event. Around 830 BCE, Hazael, the king of Aram Damascus, that's one of the Aramean kingdoms in the area of modern-day Syria, goes on a military campaign to this region. This military campaign is mentioned in the biblical text in 2 Kings 12:18, and he, among other sites, destroys this city. And wherever we excavate in this site, we find the remains of the houses which were burnt down, collapsed, and all the finds were buried within these houses. And what you're going to excavate now, and this entire area of excavation, are houses which collapsed during this destruction. And in these houses, we find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of remains, including objects. Okay, we'll show the picture in a second also. Including objects like these, which are complete vessels, which date to 2,830 years, or if you want, 2,840 years before our time. And you can see here various examples of a small juglet, probably for, if you want to, maybe you would pour your olive oil, or like this. And these are the actual objects that were excavated in this area here. And as you can see, they're virtually complete. This one looks as if it came out of the potter's workshop yesterday. Absolutely complete. This is 2,800 years old. This is a small strainer. Now, in antiquity, here, hey, you want to? You do me a favor. You're gonna. Oh, yeah. You can. Now, in antiquity, when they would drink wine, wine always had a lot of sediments. It wasn't clear like we had today. So when you drink wine, you take your strainer, you pour the wine through the strainer, and it goes into your bowl, and then you drink your wine in a bowl. Now, I'm sure some of you are familiar how Frenchmen drink coffee in the morning from a big bowl, right? So the Philistines would drink their wine in a bowl, just as, by the way, the classical Greeks would, from a skiphos. So it would be poured in through the strainer. The strainer holds all the sediments, the gook that you don't want to drink, and then you drink the clear wine like this. And these are objects that are found in the excavation. And this tells us a story of how these people lived 2,800 years ago, and how in one specific moment, with the capture and the destruction of the city by Hazael, the king of Aram Damascus, their lives ended. And by excavating over here, for example, we can get a picture of what people did in every single room and every single house, and get an idea of the daily life 3,000 years ago. Now, this is to a large extent, it's like being a time traveler. And one of the things that archaeologists really are, we have the fascinating job of being time travelers. We get into a time tunnel and go back. And sometimes when you find, a well-preserved destruction level like this, you really can get the feeling of what it is to live, because you can find the objects as the people left them. In this case, many times when they died, unfortunately, but that's already not our problem. It's this ability to understand the daily lives of people of the past, which if you excavate properly, and of course you have good finds, you really have this astounding opportunity. Now, one of the let's see, here is another object. Anybody have an idea what this is?
Something to eat with?
What?
Like
No.
Let me see. What?
Is that like a candle?
Exactly, a lamp. Very good. What this is, it's simply a regular bowl, which before it was fired, it's pinched. You put olive oil in here. You put a wick over here, and then the wick sucks up the oil, and you light it. And if you notice over here, the blackened area over here shows us this was a lamp that was used, because the tip is still blackened. Now, again, this is, imagine someone going in the middle of the night to get a snack from the kitchen, holding the lamp. So another example of this. Now, one of the special things of this area. By the way, this is a picture of what this area looked like in the 1920s, when the Arab village was still on the top of the hill. And this building that you see over here is the building back there behind the trees, which is now, we excavated over here, and 2 years ago, one of the fascinating things we found was this large stone altar. Now, it was in the center of the building, back over there, and this stone altar is very interesting. It was about this size, made out of one big piece of stone, and it's, on the one hand, found in a Philistine site, so it's a Philistine altar, but on the other hand, it's very, very similar to the depiction of the altar in the biblical text of the Israelite altar, both in size, in the decoration of the horns, etc. So it seems to be, this is a nice indication that the Philistines and the Israelites had a lot of connections between them. Now, if you look at the biblical text, when we think of what happened between the Philistines and the Israelites, we usually think most often of they were fighting, they were killing each other. But if you read between the lines and also in the lines, you can see that there's a story of, it's more than that. So for example, if those of you familiar with the Samson story, Samson on the one hand is killing the Philistines left and right, but on the other hand, he marries one Philistine woman, or actually two, although Delilah he didn't officially marry. He visits a Philistine prostitute in Gaza, and there's a lot of interaction between the two. So we see this in the archaeological remains. On the one hand, difference between the Philistines and the Israelites, but on the other hand, a lot of interaction, a lot of evidence that shows these things to be similar. Now, let me show you just a sampling of pottery found here. For example, this is how the pottery looks when it's found. As we're excavating it, the complete vessels. This is a beautiful chalice, which they probably put incense inside and burnt. And we know there was incense was put inside here because scientific testing of the organic remains shows us that there was incense in this. And let's see what else we can show. Beautiful objects of various types. Here we saw a picture like this. And all these type of vessels are what you see. This is what's coming out here. Now, what you guys are going to do is you're going to excavate in that area over there. And you'll see in a moment there's a big stone with a hole, which is probably a weight that's connected to an olive press. And if we're lucky, in the next 2 hours of work, maybe we'll come upon some interesting finds. Now, on the other hand, we don't want you to find too many finds, because if you find too many finds, we'll have to stay here after 10 o'clock. But hopefully we'll find something. Okay? And what I can suggest is, if you enjoy yourself, and of course you enjoy yourself, Amit will make sure that you're enjoying yourselves. Come back in the summer in July. We excavate every year. And even if you don't come back, I run a blog. You're bloggers also. And it's Gath, G-A-T-H, .wordpress.com. And during the excavation, I update it regularly. Throughout the year, once or twice a week, I put in something about the excavation. And you guys are going to appear on it, you understand?